How great is that? How great is that? Welcome, everybody, to the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo and Joe Rossinello, Thursday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Let's go into the breach. Joe, let me tell you something. We had a clip. We had to scratch it. We don't want any problems with NBC. I understand that they're a major league, whatever, pain in the neck. But it was an SNL clip. Jimmy Fallon doing that thing he used to do with Obama, talking like this to the microphone, and then now he's got Kamala behind him talking about Green New Deals and climate change and all that. There was a time when the left was actually funny. There was a time when the left, as represented by Saturday Night Live, back when we were kids, was funny. Okay, even though we knew that they were pretty much all liberal. Lorne Michaels is a notorious liberal. Everybody knows that. And I think that's one of the reasons why that the left turns off a lot of people, is that they forgot how to laugh. The only people they can actually make laugh now are their own kind, okay? Because nobody else wants to listen to them because they're mostly angry people. To me, that one of the reasons why they want to shut down the internet, for that clip right there. Memes, I'm sorry, are very creative, okay? As creative as anybody working at NBC or CBS or any of these late night shows. They're funny as funny could be. I think that clip is hysterical. With the Caesar coming up like this, right? And clipping Kamala right into space. It used to be people that watched Saturday Night Live would laugh at that, even if they were liberals. The liberals don't laugh anymore, Joe. They don't laugh. And we'll get into cackling Kamala in a little while later on in the show. But yeah, Joe, they're just an angry bunch of people. And though that we get angry, we still have the ability to laugh, Joe. They don't.
No, it's sad. They're killing comedy, and frankly, people have to laugh. If you don't laugh, you'll cry. And to be honest with you, a good laugh is cathartic. People have to learn to do so again.
Well, listen, when you have as your sole motivation in life being part of the cabal in the world, whose sole motivation is to gain as much political power as they can over people, okay, you don't have a lot of time to laugh. See, we can laugh, but we don't want power over other people. We just want to be able to have power over our own lives, okay, and have the government off our back. Therefore, even though we know times are tough, and we're going to talk a little bit, Glenn Greenwald had a couple things to say about how bad it is right now. We still have the ability. I mean, look, you and I prove it every Thursday night. We come on this show, we get into serious topics, but we have a little bit of a sense of humor. Okay, I'd like to always remind people out there listening to the front line with Joe and Joe. Remember a few years ago, and we mentioned it on the show several times. Air America, they raised $100 million. They were going to be they were going to compete against Rush Limbaugh and show people that leftist talk radio is just as popular as conservative talk radio. You know what happened, Joe? It fell flat on its face. One of their main personalities on that station was Al Franken, and he's supposed to be a comedian. And you know why people didn't want to listen to his show? Because he was too angry. They're just all angry. It's all anger from the left. But again, I guess you don't have time to laugh when you're like Dr. Evil and you just want to control the world. Well, I mean, what do you say?
Well, like I said, people have to take it with a grain of salt, but at the same time, we're not going to convince the people who drink the Kool-Aid. What I like to do is just educate people to see where the true fight is, to see who the real enemy is, and basically to see through the fog, because they're doing a very good job at controlling the message. That's why social media is the voice of the people. To your point, that's why talk radio has been successful. And frankly, people should turn off the mainstream media because it truly is the enemy of the people.
Joe, do you know why? Do you know why AM radio was so popular? Let me give a couple of shout outs. I mean, we're only a couple of minutes into the show, and we got a couple of, or at least new people as far as I can see. Daniel's with us. Hey, Daniel, how you doing? We got Reg, we got Alina. We have Demetrius, and I know we're going to have a bunch of our regulars here tonight. We're off to a really good start. Joe, AM talk radio. Listen, what do a lot of blue collar people do, right? They drive to work in the morning. They drive home in the afternoon. So what do? They put on their radio. You know, there's only so much Who and Led Zeppelin you could listen to, back in the day when 104.3 was the big New York radio station for classic rock. A lot of times I did it when I drove a cab back when I got out of college in the 90s, right? Who did I listen to? I listened to Bob Grant, Rush Limbaugh at 12 to 3, Bob Grant, 6 o'clock, Sean Hannity at 3 to 6 on WABC in New York. Why? Because they were the people that were speaking to me. Liberals don't drive. I'm sorry. I know this sounds simplistic. Liberals don't drive themselves to work, okay? And they want to hear platitudes all the time. AM radio took off because AM radio was appealing to everyday people. See, Rush Limbaugh wasn't some sort of an elitist. He appealed to everyday people. He was an everyday conservative. That's why guys like us loved him and what he had to say. But he made people laugh. Even George Carlin, Joe, admitted Rush Limbaugh was a great entertainer. George Carlin admitted that. Now, he admitted it that he doesn't think Rush Limbaugh believes everything he said. However, Rush Limbaugh made you laugh. These people are just straight up. I mean, Kamala with that. You know why Kamala Harris doesn't get away, Joe, with that cackle of hers? Because she's an angry woman. You can't believe she's actually cracking a smile or laughing. I mean, am I wrong? I don't think I am.
Well, I'll be truthful to you. I think if they can pull this off, what I mean by pull this off is turn this woman into a beloved figure, they could do anything, because that propaganda machine is right now in full swing and it's moving 100 miles an hour. It's all on the internet. You had people from pundits to politicians to everyone in between saying she was one of the worst VPs in the history of America. Now she's the best thing since sliced bread.
Joe Rogan said that. Joe Rogan said that too.
It's the truth. It's the truth. And you're watching it because they don't. You see, this is, again, just see through the fog. This is the most insincere message I have ever seen in my entire life. And that doesn't mean you have to like Donald Trump. It just means you have to see through the fog. These people represent an ideology. We have a lot of people in the chat from Canada. We have a lot of people who's listened to us in the past from Canada. And you know what Trudeau did to you. Trudeau did not represent the Canadian people. He represented a globalist ideology. And Kamala Harris is in lockstep with the globalists. She is in lockstep with the globalists. And what does that mean? And we're going to talk about this from a story we're going to talk about regarding digital ID from Australia. They do not represent their constituency. They don't represent you. And that's not me being hateful. I'm not saying Trump is the best thing either. But what I am saying is Kamala Harris represents an ideology. And if you can't see through that, frankly, I'll be honest with you, you can't see through anything. You got to put down your political hat and you got to look with clear eyes.
Joe, but the problem is people, well, first of all, like you said, people, you need to sift through the fog. Here's what I like about Trump. And you and I recently have had some real serious issues with Donald Trump, particularly on abortion. Having said that, okay, what I like about Trump is he got up there at the Republican National Convention with his bandage on his ear because they tried to shoot his face off. As you predicted 5 years ago, you said they were going to try to do that if he even thought about running for president again, okay? And they actually did it. And he said, let me tell you something. Climate change, it's a hoax. Now, I don't do a very good Trump impersonation, but I think you get my point. But now juxtapose that very clear language. Climate change is a hoax because that's what it is. Anybody with any sense knows, okay, that they have no science on their side. They buy all scientists at these universities, giving them funding for the things that they want to do. And they'll say, yeah, climate change. Yeah, climate change. Now give me the money because I'm trying to find a cure for cancer. That type of thing. So that's why they say 99% of the world scientists. It's a BS number. Everybody knows it. Now juxtapose Joe Resinello, Donald Trump saying that climate change is a hoax with this BS.
Fracking. So yeah, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right? And then there has to be legislation. But yes, and this is something I've taken on in California. I have a history of working on this issue. And to your point, we have to just acknowledge that the residual impact of fracking is enormous in terms of the impact on the health and safety of communities.
How about the income of communities? How about their income? Joe, real quick, and I'm going to throw it over to you.
Please.
Real quick, I'm going to throw it over to you. I can tell everybody in the state of Pennsylvania, you got your precious abortion. J.D. Vance and Donald Trump are not going to do anything to take away your precious abortion rights. So are you going to vote for them? Or are you going to vote for her? She's going to take away your job. Let's talk about bread and butter. You don't want to hear it on abortion. You don't want to hear. So you're going to get all the abortion pills you want. You're going to get. Pennsylvania's going to keep abortion legal at least for the first 6 months. You're going to get it. Are you happy? Now you're going to go and vote for her, even though you're going to get that from Trump and J.D. Vance, because you're going to be out of a job if she had anything to do with it. Because all you people fracking and doing anything like that in Pennsylvania, you'll be out of a job if she gets elected. That's my spiel, Joe.
Well, it even goes past Pennsylvania. It goes to anyone who basically drives a gas car. It goes to anyone who buys food. It goes to anyone who buys anything, because our economy is completely dependent upon gas. And if you're going to move away from it, it cannot be a radical move. If you don't believe me, again, reference Canada. Talk to the people of Canada. This is a neighboring country. It's a Western country, and they got destroyed. And if you 8 years of Justin Trudeau, in 8 years, they got destroyed. If you don't believe my words, please do your own research and see what happened to our neighbor. This will happen here. It will be the Joe Biden administration on steroids, and it will affect your pocketbook. Now, if we want to move away from gas as a society, fine. Danielle Smith has talked about this in Western Canada. Do it more gradually. That's just responsible to who? To the people. Who do you serve? An ideology or the people? Are you just going to deflect? Are you going to project? Are you going to gaslight people when they basically bring up facts that they can't eat? They can't heat their house. They can't put a meal on the table. Because frankly, when you cut off gas, and that is exactly what she's saying, it goes beyond Pennsylvania. It goes beyond, to be honest with you, even the green economy conversation. It comes down to your refrigerator. It comes down to your checkbook.
Well, she obviously doesn't care about that. But by the way, I want to throw
She's
something out there.
rich.
No, well, right. And she slept her way to getting there, but that's a different story. But let me give you an example of something that they hate. Elon Musk, okay, Joe, he creates electric vehicles. He's actually doing and created a business because he probably, I'm not saying he agrees with them, but he probably thinks in his mind, you know what, maybe we should get off fossil, maybe we should get off oil and gas. I'm going to do an electric car. I think there's a demand for it. And you know what? Tesla's a $500 billion company. The last time I checked, and Elon Musk is the richest guy in the world. They don't like him either. See, they don't want independent entrepreneurs saying, let's say they did want to move us away from, let's say, oil, gas, and all that. And they wanted to create, and as Americans do, we create things that, let's say, in this case, electric. Does it use gas? Does it use oil? In the case of a Tesla. That's a no-no too, because that's a private individual, and all his publicly, or all the public out there that owns the shares of Tesla that are going to benefit from that. You got to remember, Joe, their thing is about power, not only about money. So they don't even like it. They hate Elon Musk. Why would you hate Elon Musk? He's creating the electric vehicles of the future better than anybody else. He's doing what you want him to do, yet you hate his guts. Why? Because it's Joe. They want the money and the power for themselves. They don't want Wall Street all of a sudden funding companies that are making electric vehicles and things like that, because then that means people like us might be able to invest in it and get rich too. You know what I'm saying?
Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, and Donald Trump have a common thread. And the common thread is this: they belong to the country club and they turned in their membership. And that's why they hate them, because they're one of those people who turned on them. And that's what makes them dangerous. And they hate Elon Musk clearly because he bought Twitter, he turned it into X, and he created an open platform, which is hurting them. And that's why they hate him, because in their mind, he should never have done that. It's the same thing with Donald Trump. Why are you trying to give power back to the people? It's very clear that this is a power struggle between the establishment and the people. That is what this election is in America. Frankly, that's what's going on across the West. We're just not as far down the road as Canada and Europe and Australia and New Zealand. but we're getting there. And I'm going to tell you this right now. If Harris and Waltz get elected, we're going to get there faster than you could blink an eye.
Listen, the last thing you want,
It's going to be, I'm telling you, Joe.
they put, did you watch Mike Lee's interview with Tucker Carlson by any chance?
I did. It's very good. So
now, it's a long interview, so I quite frankly didn't have the time, but I got a good portion of it. Mike Lee said straight up that Joe Biden got the call from Obama and others. I forgot who he said, and basically said, Joe, you're going to step aside. And Kamala, basically Kamala's going to step in there. And Kamala was told, you start slipping in the polls, guess what? You go too. This is the anti-democratic part. Joe, and that the Italian in me comes out. The vein pops out of my head, okay? I'm tired of hearing the media in a civil war, and we're going to talk about a civil war in a little bit, okay? In a civil war, the media is the first to go, Joe, because they're such effing liars. They say that Donald Trump's a threat to democracy. Kamala Harris was installed. She's not.
And this is where people who are Democrats should be appalled by that.
Should.
They really should, because you have not had your voice heard. Kamala Harris, by the way, in the primary, finished third in her own state.
In California, Joe.
So if you're a Democrat, that should bother you. And here's the thing. Some people see what's going on, Joe, and they don't care. And that troubles me. I'm going to be truthful with you, because if you do, there are people who are deceived, and I don't fault them completely, because the media is not on our side. And frankly, you have to do a little digging to get information. They're taking advantage of people, and that is a grave, grave sin, to take advantage of people. But there are people who do see what's going on, and that is a group of people. I'm not going to throw stones. I'm not going to condemn. What I am going to say is this: that is not just. It's not what this country was founded upon, and it's not about power. It's about democracy and a constitutional republic that, frankly, if you live by the sword, you will die by it. And it's not wise. It's not a wise position to take. And frankly, there are some people, particularly the elites, particularly the media, and particularly the power brokers. They know exactly what's going on. And that is a shame. And they're frankly taking advantage of many people who are of goodwill, who actually think that these people actually represent them. There are people who believe that.
Right. No,
and they are completely, positively wrong.
Right.
And how can I prove my point? Look at the Black community. Listen to some of the Black community in the Bronx, in inner cities in America, who are saying, and I've heard these interviews, they're saying that the illegal immigrants are taking their resources.
Right.
You're hearing these voices.
Joe, I got a guy for you. Wait, I got a guy for you. He's not in the Bronx. He's in Minnesota, but I got a guy for you. Everybody listen to this at the front line with Joe and Joe.
Let me tell you about Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota. He's bad as they come. Far super left. He allowed the city of St. Paul and Minneapolis to burn down to the ground on the George Floyd lie. They destroyed St. Paul. They destroyed my community. They destroyed Minneapolis. Many lives was lost. Many minority businesses destroyed. It was a coordinated effort how they had everything going. They had Black Lives Matter there. They had Antifa there. They allowed them to run the city free range. They told the police officers to stand down. Down the street, me and other residents was taking down tag numbers. We handed over to the St. Paul Police Department. Nothing never came about it. And it was a coordinated attack on everybody in those cities. They had everything set up. I had to sit out on my front porch with my ARs and all my guns to protect my family, protect our property, because that governor would not do his damn job. And I'm gonna tell you, it was like a war zone. 4 nights, you could hear helicopters hovering, smoke filled the air, sirens going off daily. They didn't do a damn thing. And she picked him as vice president. Let me tell you another hitch on that. Kamala Harris even sponsored the Freedom Fund to get those people, bail them out of jail once they got captured.
Joe, that guy is the enemy of the Democrat Party. He is everything that they hate. You want to know why? See, I never, aside from the fact that, you and I, we're followers of Jesus Christ. We're disciples of Jesus Christ. I could look in the mirror and I know, I understand race through the Christian perspective. Okay. We're going to probably, a friend of ours, Mike Aquilina, wrote a book, All One in Christ, which is a Catholic perspective on the whole question of race. That man in that screen, not just because he's saying things that I agree with politically, he's my brother. He's my brother, okay, is who he is. Want to know why? Because he's got some damn common sense. I could sit down, I could talk to him. I could say I'm going to agree with him on everything, but I could sit down and talk to him. The left looks at him as a dumb N-word. And I don't care if that sounds harsh. I said a million times in 2008, when Barack Obama won the Democrat nomination, the one person in America who used the N-word more than any other person in American history was Hillary Clinton, because they're the racists, Joe. They don't like that guy. You heard what he said? I'm sitting here with my AR-15. I'm going to protect my family. I'm going to protect my property. See, they want to be able to say on MSNBC, CNN, and NBC and the mainstream media, no, that's just those radical redneck white guys out there. They want to hold their guns on their porch. No, this is a black guy. He's black. He's blacker than all you liberals in the media, okay? They hate him, Joe. They hate that guy, and he's telling it what it is. Tim Walz was picked, and we said it before. You knew she was going to pick the white guy, okay? You knew that was going to happen. Can't have an all black or all female ticket or gay ticket, so Pete Buttigieg was never going to be there. But you know where I'm going with this. They hate that guy. You want to know why, Joe? They're the racists, not us.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. I'm surprised that she picked Tim Walz, and I'll tell you why. It's very easy to label him. It's all out on the internet. Here you have a gentleman from his hometown, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and he allowed that city to burn to the ground. He did. Period. End of story. You heard it from a resident's mouth. The city burned down. The police stand down. They stood down, rather. That was his call. There's a lot of things to. He also gave licenses to illegal immigrants. Why did he do that? He's facilitating them to vote. What else is Tim Walz for? Tim Walz put tampons in children's bathrooms as young as 9 years old, boys' bathrooms.
Male bathrooms.
Does that make sense? Are you comfortable with that? Parents out there? I wouldn't be. Tim Walz is also for abortion if a child is born in an abortion. He's for that child dying on the operating table.
Right.
How could you possibly support such a person? That thing alone, that position alone disqualifies you. Republican or Democrat, you're disqualified. That's infanticide. And we've come this far as a nation that we would consider such a person. But here's the point I'm trying to make. I'm surprised they picked him, because Shapiro in Pennsylvania was being considered, and he could have helped them carry Pennsylvania. But instead, they doubled down on a radical, because Kamala Harris was the most radical senator in America. And here's the thing, and this is the point I wanted to get to, Joe, is this. Either they know that the election is sewed up because of the way that the election laws now are structured, or frankly, they just picked a loser. Because in my opinion, this is the worst ticket in my adult lifetime.
It's horrible. I remember
it is a horrible ticket.
Here, let's compare this. Now, they made fun when we were kids. They said Michael Dukakis, back when he ran against Papa Bush, okay? He lost the election when he sat on a tank and he saluted the military, okay? He's a little dwarfy guy or whatever. All right. Maybe it was bad optics, okay? But it wasn't terrible. He was trying to appeal to, let's say, patriotic Americans, people who love the military. Juxtapose. I'm starting to like that word, by the way, Joe Arceneaux. I like the word juxtapose. That's a good word, all right? If you're just joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Arceneaux, we don't ask you for money. We do ask you, though, if you're watching us on X, Rumble, Facebook, or YouTube, wherever you're seeing us, please hit the like button. Please hit the share button, and please subscribe to our channel. It'll be really helpful to us. Juxtapose Michael Dukakis, who to me, okay, it might have looked a little cartoonish, but it wasn't. I mean, the guy's running for president. He should want to appeal to people who admire the military. Juxtapose him with this.
Woke. Like everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke. Yeah.
Hillary Clinton should go to jail for teaching Kamala Harris and other Democrats that when you're asked a tough question to cackle like that. Because Hillary, by the way, was the first one to do that. Now, who am I supposed to take serious? See, Michael Dukakis was an ACLU lawyer. Okay. He was a leftist. I certainly would never have voted for him, but I don't think he was a joke. You know where I think you know where I'm going with this, Joe. I don't think he was a joke. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, that's a joke.
Joe, she has no political skills. That example there is so transparent. And first of all, that message, woke is on its way out, by the way. In many cases, people are still holding on to it. It's lost a lot of steam.
Remind me after you make your point. I want to comment on it. Go ahead, please.
But as far as that statement, she's not even a good communicator. I give her on a scale of 1 to 10, and I'm being honest, a 2. I give her a 2. I give Joe
You're
Biden
generous, Joe. You're generous.
and I give Joe Biden a 4. She's a horrible candidate. Yes, she could read a script. She could read a teleprompter. Joe Biden can't anymore. She can do that. But when she's speaking off the cuff, just like that, she's awkward and she's a horrible communicator. She's not likable. She also is so transparently an opportunist. She went from a DA that was strict on crime because that was the thing to do to now a person who is not. If you can't see through that transparency and that's what you support just because you hate Donald Trump, I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to call you names. I don't understand your logic because she does not support Americans. She supports an ideology that is going to hurt the average person's pocketbook. And if you don't believe me, look to Canada. She is no different than Justin Trudeau. Actually, she is different. He's gifted as a politician. She isn't. So that means she's going to spoon feed you a bunch of crap and it's going to taste that much worse because at least Justin Trudeau put sugar on it. And she,
Right, yeah, she puts no sugar on it, Joe.
oh my gosh, Joe.
I know, it's horrible.
It's horrible.
And not for nothing. I mean, I don't know how anybody in America, like if there was a Republican nominee that I could vote for that did that, I would start a campaign to tell them, stop doing that. Stop it. It's ridiculous. You're making yourself look like an idiot. Joe, I want to give a couple of shout outs. We got a couple of people. Sandy's with us tonight. Woof, woof is with us tonight. We got Teresa with us. Earmuffs with us. Says free all innocent J6 protesters. Earmuff, we're with you on that. We got a good crowd tonight, Joe. We're going to get a good response after the show airs on X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, the whole 9 yards. Please help us out. Like we always say, like, subscribe, share, share, and do all that fun stuff. Now, here's the first of all, nobody's woke. I except the people that are suffering under these delusions. The other people that claim to be woke are just people that are using them for political power. Because guys like us, they're not. They wouldn't vote for guys like us. Under any circumstances. So they're the people that are being abused by the Kamala Harrises, by the woke crowd out there, Hollywood and the whole 9 yards. We pray for them. But Kamala Harris is going to take complete advantage of them. But let's talk about where we're spiraling to. And then because when people talk about Kamala, she said, first of all, the borders are thing, Joe, that was a whole disaster on the part of the media. She never claimed to be the border czar. And then again, social media, Elon Musk. Why do you hate Elon Musk? Go on X and you see media outlet after media outlet after media outlet, one after the other, say she's the border czar. She's the border czar. She's the border czar. And then fast forward to she was never the border czar. She was never the border czar. She was put in charge of the border. And that was, I'm not going to even say, Joe, that she was inept. She was told to just say you're in charge of the border and not do anything about it. They threw Mayorkas out there to do absolutely nothing other than let 10 million people in here. Okay.
Well, let me just tell you this, because Elizabeth Warren already let the cat out of the bag. if Kamala Harris is the president, and Warren basically said this is the direction that they're going, you could look that up. She said it on CNN. What she's going to do is give amnesty to 10 million people who came into this country, which is going to permit them to vote. And then we're already a one-party system, just under two different labels. Then it's official. You're basically, and by the way, what that's also going to do, it's going to push the African-American population to the side because that is their new voting bloc. And
Of
they're
course.
away all of your goodies that they've been giving to you. We've already seen bits of it, but Kamala Harris is going to betray the African-American community by, in my opinion, by giving amnesty to those 10 million people. That is the new voting bloc. They get priority because they need those votes because they have to turn Texas blue. And
Well, that's
that's the goal. And
Right.
once you turn Texas blue, it's over. It's over. And that's the game. And that's the goal. And that's what she will do with the first year of her presidency.
Well, look, we already know, just to put a finer point on Tim Walz and Kamala Harris. Let me show our listeners at the front line with Joe and Joe. Let me show them Minnesota under Tim Walz. We just showed him that African-American man, our brother, sitting on his porch with an AK-47 saying, I'm going to defend my family. And he's the guy like you just described, Joe. He is the guy that the Democrat Party has moved on from, just like they pretty much moved on from Catholics. Okay. 62 or to 65% of Roman Catholics don't vote Democrat. I would bet you 100% of Roman Catholics, when they first started immigrating to the United States, voted for the Democrat Party. But let me show you Tim Walz, Kamala Harris. Let me show you. Remember, Joe, what do you always say on the show at the front line with Joe and Joe? We will know them by their fruit. Here's the fruit of Tim Walz.
Hour and 12 minutes past curfew, and right now, the protesters rule the streets. The National Guard, nowhere to be seen. The state police, nowhere to be seen. The local police, nowhere to be seen. The sheriff's department, nowhere to be seen. The protesters are the ones that feel like these streets are their streets, which you will hear.
Those streets are their streets. When a governor is elected and puts his hand on the Bible, and we know the left doesn't give a crap about the Bible or their oath of office, okay, to say that I'm here to protect the people of the state, in this case of Minnesota, you're negligent in your duty, Governor Walz. No, protesters. See, it's not protesters. See, we agree with protesting because we're pro-life people. We've protested and we've marched in the March for Life down in Washington, D.C. That's legitimate American protest. These people are burning down a city. They're burning down other people's businesses and property. And Tim Walz did nothing about it. You want more of that, America? Go ahead. Go vote for Kamala and go vote for Tim Walz, and you'll get a whole lot of that.
Well, to your point, one could say, who did he serve during that tragedy? Did he serve his people, his constituents? Because I got news for you. Those communities are not coming back. And how do I know that? Look to Newark, New Jersey. Newark, New Jersey burned 55 years ago, and it's still a wreck. It's still a wreck for a half a century. People are not going to invest in communities where their business can and will get destroyed. I see it in New York City now, in front of CVS's on 57th Street, which is known as Billionaires Row. It's on Central Park South. You have security guards standing out front of drugstores, because people go in and rob. These
Right.
are in good neighborhoods. Never mind what's going on in the Bronx, in parts of Brooklyn, in parts of Queens. That's in good neighborhoods. You have that. They probably don't have security guards. Now, what they have boards on those businesses, and they're not going back. And guess what? Guess who's hurt? The people who live there.
Of course they are.
The poor.
Do you
And
remember
they're
that black
African
woman?
American.
You remember
And
that video
they're
we
not,
played?
and they're a lot of them don't have licenses. Where are they going to shop?
Joe, you remember that poor black woman that we played a video from? It was a couple of years ago. They burned down during the whole George Floyd. They burned down the CVS. Now, this is an African-American woman. She's obviously does not have all her physical abilities. She's talking to the reporter, And she basically says, where am I going to get my drugs? They burned down my drugstore. Where am I going to get my drugs? All those freedom fighters, I guess if you want to call them that, BLM, Antifa, the rest of them, they burned down this woman's drugstore. They didn't burn down some white liberal, white establishment, fight the power that be type BS. They burned down a local drugstore where the people in the community go and get their drugs,
And
go
you
and
know,
get their medication.
and I'll repeat it again. Those folks that actually believe in the African American community that they're going to support you, they're going to drop you faster than you can blink an eye, because as soon as they give amnesty to those 10 million new people who are now their voting bloc, they're going to dump you faster than you can blink an eye. And we're already seeing it in the Bronx and in Brooklyn. And again, if you think you're going to get yours because of Kamala Harris, I got news for you. Kamala Harris is for globalists before she's for any American, white, black, Asian, Latino. It doesn't matter. And who she's going to help? The rich.
Of course she is.
The Democratic Party right now is the party of the elite. It is not the party of the working man. It is not the party of the immigrant that is legally here, working, the working poor. They're getting crushed.
The MAGA movement, I don't care. Like Jamie Raskin, we got a clip. If we get to it, we'll play it of him. I might not play it because he makes me sick to my stomach, and I'm going to eat after the show. And I don't want to. You know where I'm going with that. Where, in other words, like they used to be, the Democrats, obviously, we said a long time ago, they used to be the party of the working man. They're not the party of the working man. They're not. Republicans are. Jamie Raskin called them the MAGA mobs. See, if you actually believe that working people and the middle class people in America, people, the blue collar people that get up and go to work, and white collar people too. I'm getting tired of this blue collar, white collar. I know as many like people like yourself, all right, who get up and go to work every day. Why? Because you wear a white collar. That means that what you're in the elite somehow. You're a working man. You get up and you go to work. Okay. Don't you have to do your job just like the guy who loads trucks or drives a cab or drives a truck? Jamie Raskin calls that the MAGA mob. Okay. And he says it straight up because the Democrats, like you said that Kamala Harris cares about the globalists more than she does the American people. I'll take it one step further. She doesn't give a fig about the American people. That's the bottom line. And how do we know this? Because we know Biden is mentally scacciato, as they say in Italian. Okay. He's gonzo. And everybody knows that. That's why Obama, according to Mike Lee, made the phone call to him saying, you're out. Kamala, you're in. And until your poll numbers slip, you'll stay there. And if and between rigging and everything else, we'll make sure you get in there. But basically, you're under control. But here's the thing, and I hope the American people see this right now. Like you said, Joe, this is a guy who's a liberal. I believe he's a homosexual. Probably wouldn't agree with you.
No, he is.
Many things. But he is a reporter.
Oh, he's a real deal.
In the true sense of the word.
Extremely high in the region. The U.S. over the last 2 weeks has announced a series of military deployments to that region with the obvious intent of ensuring that the United States would be involved in that war that might be happening. And then at the same time, you have just today a U.S. military base in Iraq that was attacked, presumably by a missile or a drone, by the Iranians that severely injured, if not killed, at least a couple of American soldiers. The reporting on exactly what the nature of those injuries are is a little bit vague. It just happened a couple of hours ago, but you see just the, powder keg waiting to explode with the United States government posture being that we are going to go to that region and get involved in that war in defense of Israel and to prevent wider escalation. You have a financial crisis that basically exploded out of nowhere today when a U.S. jobs report that shot up unemployment rates scared the entire world into believing that the U.S. is slowing down considerably when it comes to economic growth, put panic in all sorts of global markets, including the United States, in Asia, and elsewhere. And then you have a war in Ukraine that is still going on, that the United States and NATO have made it almost impossible for them not to win, where the Ukrainian front line, again, is getting pummeled and retreating and withering in the face of a Russian onslaught. You could go on with the serious crises that the United States government is facing. not will face next year, but is facing right now, that can have major consequences. And so we keep hearing these policies being announced and these decisions being issued, and we have genuinely no idea who inside the US government is making those decisions. And the reason for that is that the sitting president of the United States, Joe Biden, is somebody who, not just the other party, the Republican Party, but his own party even more so, spent the last 2 months increasingly insisting through leaks and explicit statements that he was mentally unfit to run the presidency.
And there you have it, Joe. Real quick, I want to hand it over to you, but just you're joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello. Like I always say, we don't ask you for money. We ask you to smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, and smash the share button. We have a couple, Joe, we got some new visitors tonight. We have Lana's with us tonight. Dead in the Waters with us tonight. Jake Lawless, gotta love that name. Margie C, Chatty Great Granny 62. She hasn't been here in a while, so she's back. We're getting our audience back, Joe, which is a great thing. Teresa's here. Yeah, Glenn Greenwald hits it right on the spot. Nobody knows where Joe Biden is, or no, they do. And Kamala supposedly, so he's not actually stepped aside. He's actually the president. Okay. And she is going to be the next president. But who's running stuff? You've all admitted that he doesn't have his wits about him. You've all admitted that he's basically on his way out mentally and probably physically. He might be dead before this episode is even over. Joe Biden is on his last legs. We can only pray, and I do, and I know you do. We pray for his soul because he's at the end of his life. Who's running the country, Joe?
Joe, and here's the better question. How are you okay with that?
Exactly.
How are Democrats, people who consider themselves Democrats, okay with what that man just said, who, by the way, is a journalist? You should follow Glenn Greenwald for geopolitical news. He will give you real answers, real facts, and he is a smart man.
Straight shooter.
Straight away.
Great shooter.
And I'm going to tell you this right now. That question should trouble every American. And who's making decisions? Non-elected people. What does that say? That says that our voice means nothing. That says that we are not the republic that we say we are. That says that our elections mean nothing because we should have a president and the president should be dictating policy. And what Glenn Greenwald brings up is policies are being put forth. And if you think Joe Biden is at the front line of those policies, you're frankly asleep at the wheel. It says to me that there is a shadow government that runs things. And what it says to me is that shadow government is not elected. And what it says to me is that shadow government does not represent you. And that is exactly what needs to change in this election. And it's not going to change overnight because they control every single institution of power. And this has been going on for decades. But Donald Trump is a start. And that's why they hate him. It has nothing to do with he's a threat to democracy. He's a threat to them.
Right.
It has nothing to do with you. In fact, Donald Trump will do infinitely more for you, the regular man and the regular woman, than Kamala Harris and Tim Walz ever can or will.
Oh, listen, let's be fair. Let's be fair, Joe. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are not even going to be allowed to do anything. It is Barack Obama's
100%.
fourth term.
You're 100%.
It's Barack Obama's fourth term, and his vice president is Ron Klain. Get it straight, everybody. Kamala Harris doesn't have an original thought in her head. Here's the woman they're going to tell us is the smartest woman in the world.
Woke. Like everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke.
Now get it straight. Okay, first of all, that's appalling. This woman with her cat, we started the show with that clip, that meme with Elon and Donald Trump sending her out into space. Let's only hope that could happen. But Joe, I want to play you something. Remember, we said last week here at the front line with Joe and Joe, and I'm glad that we say a lot of things, Joe, quite frankly, before a lot of more popular people say it, like Tucker Carlson. We've said for quite some time, you have to listen to people's language. When people were trying to pass off that one thing that she was saying as being just something to dismiss. No, it's not. And that thing was where she said, I could see the future being unburdened by the past. You and I were the first ones to say, Joe, that's Marxism straight up. That's Khmer Rouge. That's Mao. That's French Revolution. So let's start history all over. That means all prior institutions, particularly God. And let's be clear about that. Okay. Particularly God. He is the first idea, because they call him an idea. He's the first hypothesis that has to go. And then everything else that came before. You have to take her seriously in that way. Okay. And in the same way with this, where she says, even though she cackles through it like Hillary Clinton, it's just, it gets me up to here, Joe Resinello. The Italian in me comes out, Joe Resinello, when I hear that cackle from Hillary or her. But here's how serious it is. She's saying stay woke. Let me play you this. We're going to come back and then I want your comments.
Crackdown on social media abuse is being considered by the federal government. For more, Nine's Oliver Haig joins us live in Adelaide. Ollie, how will it work?
Layla, good morning. Essentially, it will work the same as a passport. Australians forced to submit 100 points of identification, like their driver's licence or passport, when using social media accounts like Facebook and Twitter. Now, police would have access to those social media accounts, and it's all part of a crackdown on online abuse. Now, users could be liable for defamation suits or even criminal prosecution, and it's all part of a plan hoping to deter people from engaging in bad behaviour. Now, the recommendations were handed down by a federal parliamentary inquiry. They're reforms that are being considered by the Morrison government, with the chairman saying there is merit to remove the veil of being anonymous. Layla?
Now, I'm going to want a couple of comments from you. But here's the thing. What she said during her cackling in the clip that we played before that one, okay, that's not her just cackling, Joe Resinello. That's her giving you a warning. Remember, leftists, no matter how they say it, is always a warning to you and me and everybody else. Better get woke. Better get woke. That's her saying, because you won't freaking eat. Because your kids won't be able to go to school. Because you won't be able to do banking. And we know, because they did that to Nigel Farage. Okay. And many other people. They've taken away the banks, turn around. We don't want to do business with you. You have a high social profile and we don't like it. We're not going to do business with you. Joe, it's a warning. It's not anything other than that. And that clip from Australia is proof that that's what they want to do.
Well, Joe, people think that only goes on in China, and that's a perfect example that Australia is a government not very different than America's, not very different from Canada. And like I said earlier in the show, they're further along the globalist agenda. And Kamala Harris is going to jump us right up in front of the line, just like Justin Trudeau did to Canada. And what they're talking about there is controlling messaging, because they know that they cannot control the population without controlling social media. We've seen this in Europe. Europe has banned Rumble, not Europe, France. Brazil has banned Rumble. America just banned TikTok because they say it's affiliated with China. Oh, you just banned TikTok, which is used by the large majority of young people who they're counting on to vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz during an election. Oh, that just happened by chance. Right. They're controlling the messaging through that means of digital ID. And that is going to come here. And how do I know that? You had Nikki Haley, who already said in one of her platforms that she would ban anonymous names on social media. Some would say, well, that's a good thing. Well, no, it's a bad thing. I don't use my right name on Facebook because I've been tried doxxed twice.
Right.
Two people tried to make me lose my job. Why? Because they don't agree with me. I'm free to speak my mind. I could speak truth to power, but they can't have that. And that goes against everything that this country is about. If you don't have free speech, you are not a democracy. Right. And Australia, in putting forth that legislation under the guise of whatever, misinformation, call whatever you want. We're seeing it in Ireland. We're seeing it in the UK.
Ireland's starting to fight. Ireland's starting to fight back. Ireland's starting to fight back.
We better start fighting back by not voting for Kamala Harris.
Well, listen,
and it's not a Democrat thing.
I'm not I'm still, and everybody here knows me at the front line with Joe and Joe. I've said it a million times. I don't care what the polls say or anything else. The Republicans and the conservatives have not done anything meaningful about elections. So I believe I'm preparing that she's going to be president of the United States because they're going to cheat. It's that simple. By the way, just want to throw this out there as an aside for a second, Joe Rossinello, just get your thoughts. Are you aware that Mark Zuckerberg has called Donald Trump several times since the assassination attempt?
I did not know that.
Yes. He told
He's hedging
Donald
his
Trump.
bet, I would say. That's
Well,
it.
he also, now again, I need to do more research on this, but it's just a kind of, like a superficial search on social media and on Google, of all things. He said he's not supporting the Democrat. Now, remember, this is a guy that poured $400 or so million into Philadelphia for whatever Democrat cause.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it for a minute.
I do for this reason. I want your thoughts. I want your thoughts on this because it's just a thought that popped into my head when I heard it. Zuckerberg wants to be like Elon Musk, and he doesn't want to be one of the crowd of Bezos and George Soros and this one and that one. I think he respects and admires Elon Musk, and I think he wants to be more independent. I quite frankly do. I don't think it's a business decision. I think it's a personal decision that he looked at himself in the mirror and say, am I a sheep or do I want to be a leader? And I'm hoping that he's not, now I'm not saying he's supporting Trump, but he's not going to blindly support the woke left. If you know
to be honest with you, this is my opinion, and I don't know him, and I hope you're right. I think just like Zelensky in the Ukraine, who already said that we have to start thinking about talking peace. A month ago, he didn't say that before Trump's assassination attempt. I think he's hedging his bet. He knows that Donald Trump, if he does become the president, and I don't think he's going to because they're not going to let him, even if the people surprise American elites and make Donald Trump the president-elect, watch what happens between November and January. Watch what happens. Everything that they accuse Donald Trump and the MAGA movement, they will do in spades and exponentially.
I don't want to play the clip because we're coming to an end, and I don't want to waste time, and I want to talk more about social credit. But Jamie Raskin has basically said that if Trump wins, he wants the Supreme Court to step in and say that he's not qualified.
Well, actually, Raskin's just so people who maybe some international folks that are listening. We have a lot of international listeners. New Zealand, Woof Woof is from New Zealand. We have a lot of Canadian listeners. Jamie Raskins is a congressman from Maryland. Am I correct?
Maryland, yeah.
He basically said recently that the Congress will use the 14th Amendment to not install Trump even if he's elected.
That's why they wanted, by the way, that's why
that
they
is what
wanted
he
him
said.
convicted of a crime. And that's what, because they want the Supreme Court to say that Donald Trump incited an insurrection, which disqualifies him.
Joe, he should be censured for that statement. That statement is so dangerous.
Well, Republicans aren't going to do that.
No, but I'm just saying, if the country, this is where people should be wide-eyed. That is such a dangerous statement. That is not somebody on the internet. That's not someone tweeting something. That is an elected official. May
I ask you a question? I know you know the answer. I know the answer you're going to give me. The Republicans watched the Senate Majority Leader threaten the lives of 2 Supreme Court justices on the steps of the Supreme Court, which led to the arrest of a man on the street where Brett Kavanaugh and his family live, and they arrested him with weapons and kidnapping equipment, and the Republicans did nothing to Chuck Schumer. I said I was going to ask you a question, but I already know the answer that you're going to give me. You know they're not going to do anything.
Oh, no, nothing to him. But what I will say is this. Watch what happens if people see through the propaganda machine that is Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and Donald Trump is elected. If that happens, watch what happens between November and January. Write what I'm saying down, because they're not going to allow it.
Joe, I'll tell you this. If that happens, I recommend to you, okay? I know that you're a martini guy. I'm more of a brown liquor guy myself. Go out and go get yourself a bottle of Hendrick's. Make you and your wife a couple of martinis, bust out the popcorn or Doritos or whatever you like, and pop on the TV. Okay, it'd probably be the only time I'll watch Fox News just to stay a little bit more up to date. And I'll have X on my phone because it's going to be entertaining. Look, there's something to be said for being able to laugh at the end of your country's existence. Okay, to be able to say, we believe in Jesus Christ. This is not the end all and be all. There is hope. Okay. And okay, if the whole thing comes down, I don't believe it's going to be as disastrous as everybody says. I think it'll be more of a transition. There's going to be some blood because these people are bloody people, Joe. We played the clip of Minneapolis earlier. They'll burn down everything. It's going to take some strong resistance to fight them back. At the end of the day, not going to be the end of the world. But it's going to be entertaining. I might as well, you and I and our families, we might as well get a laugh out of it, because when you're going to see Adam Schiff and Schumer and Pelosi and Jamie Raskin and Swalwell, that smarmy scum, whatever, from California, they're going to become all the election deniers. And here's the frustrating part, and I'm going to throw it over because we got to finish. The media is going to be on their side while they're really denying an election. The media will be on their side saying, you know what? Donald Trump's not the legitimate president. They'll all become election deniers after putting people in jail for January 6th.
Absolutely, Joe.
Okay? You know where I'm going with that.
Just a parallel example. That's exactly what's going on in Venezuela right now. Maduro was not elected, and he's not leaving.
He's throwing people in jail, Joe.
And I got news for you. They're not going to allow Donald Trump to be the president. And if they do, he won't last one calendar year. They'll kill him. They're not allowing it. And this is where people, you can't be okay with that. You can't be okay with that. You see, this is where, again, I just shake my head, Joe.
I know.
This is not about Republican, Democrat. This is about justice. This is about your safety. You're not insulated. This is where I don't know how people somehow think that they're insulated. You're not. You're not in that financial situation. You are absolutely exposed to the raw power. And that is why you cannot support this.
Right.
You simply can't. And if you do, I got news for you. You're going to be sadly surprised.
Listen, I'm going to give you two examples of how, and this gives me hope. When BLM was rioting in the streets, they were tearing down statues all over the place. There was two examples. One was in California. BLM was marching up the block. They wanted to rip down a statue of Saint Junipero Serra, okay, who basically civilized California. California started out as a Catholic territory, Spanish territory. That's why all the names of the cities are all Catholic. Sacramento, all the saints, the whole 9 yards. Bishop Barron joined a bunch of people, mostly Catholic, I would assume mostly Catholic, in protecting that statue while BLM was coming down the street. And guess what? That day did not belong to BLM. In Nutley, New Jersey, from Newark, New Jersey, which is 3 towns over the biggest city where Joe and I grew up, biggest city in Newark, in New Jersey, BLM marched down what's called Franklin Avenue, okay, towards Nutley, New Jersey, to tear down a statue of Christopher Columbus in front of the library in Nutley, okay? Nutley is predominantly Italian-American. A lot of Italians that left Newark moved to Belleville and then Nutley. And those people stood in the street. Those Italian-Americans stood in the street while BLM was coming down the road, and they said, not going to happen today. You're not taking down our statue. Now, eventually, I don't think anything happened, but what BLM was forced to do was turn around and go back to where they came from. Go back to your bosses down at City Hall in Newark. Go back to your headquarters in Southern California, wherever you are. You're not winning the day today. Joe, nobody was hit over the head. Nobody was shot. People were praying.
That could never happen. And that's why you can't elect Tim Walz, because he allowed that to happen. In a society, there are police. That's nothing more than Charles Bronson. That's when that's a sign of society breaking down, and it's breaking down in front. And that's why I'm saying you're not insulated. If you think you're insulated from what we've already seen, you're simply not.
You're right.
And this is a dangerous, dangerous time. People don't have confidence in our own elections. People, frankly, don't have confidence in institutions. These are the institutions that keep peace and and keep society civil. We don't have, the police are afraid to do their job.
You heard what that reporter said. That reporter said there's no National Guard, there's no police, there's no sheriff's department.
But even now in our big cities, I work in New York City. It's a drastic difference between New York City of 5 years ago to New York City of today.
Right.
And this is real. This is real. And this is what you're voting for. You're not voting for being a Democrat. You're you're voting, frankly, you're voting to slit your own throat. And that's just the truth. I don't know what else to say. Joe, it frustrates me.
No, it should frustrate you. It should frustrate. Listen, it should frustrate all of us. What should really worry us, we've been saying for a long time here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe, we're already in a civil war. It's been, I guess, for the most part, but I don't know. When you look at what some of the stuff that happened with BLM and Antifa, it hasn't been bloodless. Of course, remember Kyle Rittenhouse defended himself in Wisconsin. And he took out one of the Antifa members. We hope it doesn't really come to that. But let's end the show on this. I want to play. Everybody stick around for just 2 minutes. We're going to play something for you. But before we do, we're going to say goodnight. Please, thank you for joining us here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Like I said, we don't ask you for money, but if you could hit the like button, to subscribe, to share, help us to get the message out there. If you like our conversations, if you think a couple of loudmouth Italians from North Jersey are a little entertaining, maybe we got something to say, help us out. And so this way we could get out there even more. We go live Thursday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern. And we also have our interview shows that airs on the radio in the Northeast. And we post all of those on X, Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. So wherever you see us, please help us out in that way. Like I said, stick around for 2 minutes. Going to leave you with John Voight. Joe, great conversation tonight as always. It's important that we keep open our mouths and we'll keep it moving. Great job, brother.
You too, Joe.
Friends, this is the war of our lifetime now. We the people are in trouble if this nation picks Kamala Harris. We must stop this crime that is happening. It's a war crime that Obama is directing, and Kamala Harris will be the cackling hyena that just listens and repeats. If we do not stop this horror, you, my friends, will have the biggest horror that you will not know how to end. We must all see this truth, become one with this understanding that God will guide us with words of wisdom, that we may understand that Donald Trump will make any sacrifice to save America. We the people are in danger, and we must vote for President Trump because he will save this nation. And the left are all afraid of his strength because he is only for the people. He's not for the power, for the greed, the lies, or wanting to destroy one's hard-earned earnings. We must stop this madness now. Our children are in danger. The left is trying to take away your children and turn them into non-binaries. You all on the left, the ones who are my peers that preach, you all know who you are. What have you all learned in this life? Have you learned the lessons that will bring you to the higher place of eternity? This is now all your lessons. For each one who votes against Trump, this will be among the worst crimes that you will see in your lives. And you know why? This nation has criminals killing your child, father, brother, friend, you, because of the left mentality allowing this border to be open. The ones who are on the left who fight against Trump will pay a price for the injustice of lies that are Kamala Harris and Obama. And all of you who think this is the greatest economy, you will find that your life will sink into a hole of darkness, and the freedom we all once had will be burned in the dark plague of the darkest time in history, like the destruction of the Civil War. My fellow Americans, we've come too far, and this life we were given was the blessing of God, and this is our hope, to remember that he shall chant the words of Psalm 25 and in the Torah, Isaiah 55. We shall overcome. May God watch over us and bring this nation back together so her beauty will shine with her glory, the red, white, and blue. God bless America, and he will protect our nation against this evil left, and Donald Trump will make America great again. Much love.